Red Ray Gun Limited presents
The Benji and Nick Show.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good evening.
Good afternoon.
Goodness.
Goodness gracious me. It's
Loch
us,
Ness.
isn't it, Nick? Loch
Yes,
Ness.
it is. Yes. You are Benji Clifford.
And you are Nick Briggs. And this, I believe, is the Benji and Nick Show. And
Correct.
that is the sound of...
Benji's got an air show going on in his neighbourhood.
I have. He's got an air show going on in the room.
This week we're chatting about
No, I don't know what that one was.
Robin of Sherwood.
We certainly are. Robin of Sherwood, the fun 80s show, historical fun bops and madness. As well as that, yeah, we got plenty, all our usual fixtures, haven't we, Nick?
Yeah, a bumper pack of emails, really.
Wow.
And a reminder of our Randall and Hopkirk competition. I put at the top of this a Robin of Sherwood competition. It's not true. I meant to write podcast. There's no Robin of Sherwood competition.
Oh, well. Nip that
Anyway.
one in the bud straight away.
We must get on. First
Yes,
up,
we must.
emails. Email us at podcast@nicholasbriggs.com.
That's the place where you can email us. As well as that, if you go onto the Facebook page, you will also be able to email us by clicking the button that says email us. So just email or write to us or something. But you click the button.
It's
you
the
can
Benji
send
and Nick
Yeah, the
Cult
Benji and
TV.
Nick Show Facebook thing, which is like a little cult hub of fun and frolics where we talk about bits and bobs on there, and you can chat to each other about the podcast and what you've encountered and what your opinions are. So heading on to our first email here, subject here, note from Alan Jope to our Facebook page, the Benji and Nick Show Cult TV podcast, from Alan Jope to podcast@nicholasbriggs.com. Hey guys, I love the podcast. Nick, I met you a few years ago at Long Island too. Have you ever considered reviewing the Sinbad movies, Golden Voyage of Sinbad and Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger? Both are great films with Doctor Who cast connections and fab stop motion effects from Ray Harryhausen. Alan Jope, Belmont, USA, sent from my US Cellular R smartphone. Now that's official, isn't it?
That's a registered trademark for cellular. Oh, Alan. Well, you should have sent a photograph and then I might remember you. A lovely time I had at Long Island 2. Yeah, I've seen both those movies. I think one of them has Patrick Troughton in and the other one has Tom Baker in. So there you go. And Tom Baker was cast as a result of Golden Voyage of Sinbad, wasn't he? Because Barry Letts and Terence Dix went down the road to see it at the local cinema and then decided to see Tom Baker on the basis of that. Here's another email. The subject line is the usual nonsense, and it's from James Macaronis to podcast at Nicholas. That one. Gentlemen, I confess, with a long list of Big Finish releases, a pile and a half of books, and all manner of televisual oddities to work my way through, I didn't think I'd ever find the time for the Benji and Nick Show. I write first and foremost to tell you that I am very, very happy that I did.
Marvellous! Superb!
You see, out of nowhere, I found myself a victim of bleak midwinter, the holidays scuppered by bouts of flu and worry. Oh, goodness, I know that feeling. How refreshing, then, to find your corner of podcast magic. A place where curious things that, as Nick remarked in his Death of the Daleks reminiscence, seem so transient when they go by on the air, are revived to the fullest in your joyful, jovial, periphrastic peregrinations. Had to stop to work that out. Benji's impression of human scientist Doctor Who made one afternoon positively sparkle, and your twin affection for all things Anderson has galvanized me to check out Thunderbirds, UFO, and Space: 1999. A child of the 90s, my only proper TV21 memory is of the Anderson-produced Lavender Castle. But looking back at it, it does seem like something that may intrigue the both of you. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, or claymation classic The Trapdoor. But there are so many things I want to suggest. They're a bit out of my time zone, those. But definitely in, I was going to say Jamie because I'm thinking of Anderson. Definitely in Benji's because of your reactions. There's a curious quiet whenever Sapphire and Steel is mentioned in an email. Is there?
I never
And I wonder if you did, in fact, do an episode on that spooky little series, but it was taken out of time. Hey, I get what you say there. In the event you haven't, may I be so bold as to suggest assignment 2 or 4 for your reconsideration? More Who would, of course, be brilliant. But then again, although I have copies of both, I'm yet to start on Department S or The Stone Tape. So mayhap, brother, mayhap. I should let you be my guides, eh? My last request would be that you cover a Sherlock Holmes adaptation. I do love Jeremy Brett, but there's always Peter Cushing, Christopher Plummer, Tom Baker. Tom always says, I failed as Sherlock Holmes, he says.
Rubbish.
Just imagine. Well, it wasn't his finest moment, I'll certainly say that. I never disagree with him when he tells me. Just imagine, we'd get to hear Audio's own Holmes holding forth on his predecessors. See what you did then.
Can I stop you there really quickly, Nick, just to say, actually, that yesterday I ordered the Jeremy Brett Blu-ray of the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, because I fancy I've been in a bit of a Holmesy mood lately. So I for years I just couldn't remember. I had this memory of Sherlock Holmes, just the setting, but I couldn't remember which one it was. And then I worked out it was Jeremy Brett, and so yeah. Boring. Now I'm just talking.
That's what it's all about.
A Holmes one would be cool. A Holmes one would be quite cool.
And what he's alluding to, of course, is that I do play Sherlock Holmes for Big Finish.
I
played Sherlock Holmes on stage. I was playing Sherlock Holmes on stage in 1999 when I was editing my first Big Finish play. I've rambled, says James. Well, no more than we do, mate, so it's fine. But let's be reasonable, he quite rightly points out. Is that not in the spirit of things? Thank you for indulging this email, and thank you 100 times over for this podcast. It's reminded me of the joys of cult TV and the wonder that stays behind even when the art itself has passed us by. Benji, keep turning those tarot cards. Nick,
always.
I can't believe you didn't know what a word search was. It's true, I didn't. But you're right. They are a bit rubbish. Yours in tangents, James Macarona's Rock and Roll. James, what a fantastic email. Beautifully written, I thought. Particularly beautifully written. Not so well read out, but beautifully written.
Great fun that one was. James Macaronas. Hey, sorry, I had to say it.
You did, didn't you?
That's all that was going through in my head. Okay, so we've got another one here. Subject, R.E. Randall and Hopkirk from Luke Peatnick. Luke Peatnick, fantastic sound designer for Big Finish, actually. And the guy I've known for years, actually. I remember we both used to make Doctor Who fan films when we were younger.
Oh, I've got to watch those.
Yeah, well, no, you don't. They're safely locked away, along with my audio dramas of me being the Doctor years ago. Oh, awful. But Luke did stuff as well. So, yeah, remember that. Nice to hear from you, Luke. Hello, Bick and Nenji. Just a follow-up from your chat about Randall and Hopkirk, deceased. Controversially, I never liked the original series very much because of the things Nick talked about, the run-of-the-mill storylines, lack of character development, poor execution of the central conceit, etc. However, I was a great fan of the reboot and might actually suggest that whilst by modern standards the acting of the two leads isn't nuanced as it could be, it's probably on par with that of the original in terms of the theatricality and comic flourishes. Maybe I'm wrong, but I loved the revived series. Still have.
Did you just drop something then?
Yes.
What is that?
The cable.
Oh.
I was moving it out of the way and dropped it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I love the revived series. Still have both of them on DVD. Benji, they are definitely worth watching, if only for Tom Baker and Amelia Fox. I can understand why it isn't loved by fans of the original, but then I suppose I can't really claim to be one of them. If you view it in its own context, it's really fun. Many thanks for the chatterific podcast. Thanks, Luke Peatnick. Well, Luke, I might have to give it a go.
Yeah, you should give it a go, because a while back, I think it was my friend Robert Dick lent me the DVDs of it and said you really should give it a go. It was quite a long time ago, and I did really enjoy them. Actually, you really get into it. They are, as I said to you, they are They're beautifully done. Just a quick couple of emails anticipating our coverage of Robin of Sherwood. Subject: Robins of Sherwood, from Chris Avery. Dear Benji and Nick, I am really looking forward to hearing your thoughts on Robin of Sherwood. It is one of my all-time favourite TV series, and I have watched and rewatched it many times. No pressure then. It's basically saying you better like it, otherwise I'll get very cross. The key element, as is the case with all good ensemble casts, is the relationship between the various members of the gang, the Merrys as the cast christened themselves. Big Finish regular Nicholas Grace is of course superb as the Sheriff of Nottingham, and the late Robert Addy makes a perfect foil as Guy of Gisborne. There is also an impressive list of guest stars. Oddly, I didn't actually discover the series until Jason Connery took over, and I assumed that, like Nick, I had missed it because it clashed with Doctor Who. But looking back at the dates, episode 1 was broadcast on the 28th of the 4th, 84, 1 month after season 21 finished, and of course this was at a time when Doctor Who was appearing twice weekly and not on a Saturday, so there is no clash. Ooh, it sounds like an urban myth, this clash thing. I remember Colin Baker talking about the broadcasting clash at one point, but anyway, interesting. With regards to the subject for future podcasts, there is a rather large vampire-shaped elephant in the room, Dark Shadows. I had not heard of it until Big Finish picked it up, and I decided that before starting on the BF audio series, I ought to watch the series, which I did. All 1,225 episodes! Wow. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark. I'm so glad I did, really. Is he speaking to me from a hospital? It is television madness, unlike anything else you will ever watch, and really fits the remit of this podcast. The only difficulty is which episode to pick. I'm going to pick the 1,224th episode. Episode 212 is the obvious one, as it introduces Barnabas Collins. But to be honest, pretty much any episode will give you something to talk about, that's for sure. I have seen some of Dark Shadows, bits of it. I just... Don't do that to me, that's all I can say. Oh, and after that, Lost in Space, smiley emoji. I could do Lost in Space, although that takes a bit of tolerating. The new series was excellent, I thought. Keep up the brilliant podcastery, Chris Avery, sent from my iPad. And this one, an actor and podcaster of some note, subject Robin of Sherwood, from Richard James. It's
it's Richard James. Yeah. What a dude. Richard James, great to hear from you.
Who I also saw him in Stormbreaker, the Alex Rider movie, the Anthony Horowitz.
Yes.
Yeah. He was the vicar at the funeral of Alex Rider's uncle.
Oh, very nice. I always remember him in... he was in a film I absolutely love, which is the 1995 Wind in the Willows.
Was he?
With Terry Jones as Toad, yeah, and Richard played one of the weasels. Absolutely great. Great film, that. Great film. Very underrated, actually.
I've never seen it. I must watch that. Now I know Richard's in it. I have to get it, don't I? Yeah.
It's like one of those films I remember from me and my friend Tom when we grew up. We used to love that film, so it's become like a yearly thing that we watch it. It's like our thing that we do around Christmas. So we watched that film with a few beers.
You old softy. Yeah. Hi, Nick and Benji, says Richard. I'm really enjoying the podcasts. I don't know why. That's a sort of French version of podcasts every week. In your review of Robin of Sherwood, I hope you can take the time to mention the music that accompanied the series by Celtic rock band Clannad. Not just the main theme, but their album Legend that featured songs and music from the series. Back in the days before streaming and downloads, I remember saving my £5.49 to order the album from W.H. Smith. Even then, I had to wait a week for it to arrive. Although I watched the series, it's this album I remember the most, coinciding as it did with those difficult teenage years. I know what you mean. On a side note, I subsequently worked with Ray Winston, who's in Robin of Sherwood, in the 90s, and found him rather down on his luck and forced to drive cabs for a living.
Wow.
Just goes to show the vagaries of the acting profession. Because now he's a major international star. Keep podding, Richard James. Thank you, Richard.
What a dude.
That's interesting, isn't it? Well, look, listen, let us start talking about Robin of Sherwood. We watched the first episode.
We did, yeah. Absolute banger, I thought. Really, I'd never seen it before. I really liked it, actually. I thought it was incredibly well put together and well done. Now, Nick, you're not, as you mentioned in a text to me, you're not a fantasy sort of guy. You're not into the mythical madness. Yeah. So I'm intrigued to see what your first impressions of it were.
Well, I'd never ever watched a full episode of Robin of Sherwood before. And I just had it logged in my head as a thing that was competing with Doctor Who, because I remember Colin Baker saying on stage at a Doctor Who convention that, he would, he said, well, I record Doctor Who, but watch Robin of Sherwood and then watch Doctor Who afterwards, He said, and I think a lot of people do that. Doctor Who's more important, but we all love Robin of Sherwood as well. So there must have been a clash at some point, possibly with the Jason Connery ones. So I had a sort of natural tribal antipathy towards it. But I always knew from the bits I'd seen that it was a very stylish piece. And watching it again, it is very stylishly done, much more stylishly than Doctor Who, all shot on film. But the bizarre thing is, you can still tell they're on a bit of a limited budget, because even though there are moments, it's beautifully shot, the sun bleeding through the leaves in the trees and all that kind of stuff. There are elements of it where they've had to just cover scenes on one shot, and there's sort of some odd, it's very churlish of me to mention this, but there's sort of odd moments when Guy of Gisborne's sort of getting away at top speed. They just hold it on a very wide shot of him sort of struggling around and getting on a horse, and then and you think, hold on, some of the other bits of this have massive coverage, lots of cutting and editing, lots of interesting angles, and here you've just basically said, we've got 10 minutes, the camera's here, get on the horse and ride off, and that'll do for this scene. So I feel there are moments when they're clearly very stylistic intentions, which are largely successful, of the production, fall down through lack of time and money. I think that it's excellent. Who was it? Was it Chris who said that, or the cast? The
cast was great, and some great. I think Ray Winstone was such a good choice.
He's terrifying, isn't he?
He's the thing is, my knowledge of Ray Winstone is, I remember him in the film Scum, from years before, a really violent film where he played Ray Carlin,
which itself is a version of a TV.
It is,
play.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's already to me incredibly intimidating. And actually, going back to Richard's email, the thought of getting into a cab opposite Ray Winstone would terrify me.
Well, it would be a very strange cab driver if he was facing you when he was driving, unless it was like an SPV from Captain Scarlet.
A Johnny Cab from
Total Recall.
From Total Recall.
Oh, welcome to Johnny Cab.
But I think there's some great casting in there. Actually, one thing I would say, which did distract me a little bit, is that Michael Praed, who plays Robin of Locksley, I just couldn't get it out of my head that he looks a bit like Kevin Keegan, and so for the whole of the way
that was
through,
a very popular haircut at the time.
Oh yeah, but it's in his face.
Kevin Keegan was a famous footballer, for anyone who didn't know.
Even his face is a little bit Kevin Keegan, and so it did make me giggle a bit. But I absolutely go for anything historical, certainly anything medieval history. Obviously, this is Robin Hood is more of an urban sort of tale, or an old wives' tale, I suppose one might say.
I've never heard Robin Hood described as an old wives' tale.
Well, it's not real,
old
is it?
Wives' tales are things like, put a potato on your bunion and it will disappear overnight.
Yeah, but it is kind of, this the hooded man who steals from the rich and gives to the poor and all that. It's a story of hope, isn't it? Really, at a time where people needed it, the same as like with King Arthur. It's all these people. People want heroes, and Robin Hood is the ultimate hero, really, because he is he's one of the people, and I think they put that across really well in this. And you get this feeling of that it's Robin Hood and a band of merry men. It's all these people from different walks of life.
They're rough men, not merry men.
They're people, from all different walks of life who come together with Robin. And, I like it. It's got a great vibe to it, and it feels a little bit... I was thinking this is like the 80s equivalent of what we watch now, like Game of Thrones, that level of like television, isn't it? That quality of television, I suppose. Yeah,
it's not quite up to that, but
not quite up to that, but you know what I mean.
Direction, yeah.
Obviously, for me, I would say like I feel like the all of the villains in it are a little bit panto in a way. Like Nicholas Grace and all that. Not in a way that is down to them. It's just the way it's all is a little bit in it. It made me giggle a little bit at
really,
times.
I thought they were very. I thought they were quite
brilliant.
frightening and unpleasant. I didn't think they were panto-y at all myself.
The guy who's the bloke? Burn it to the ground. That horrible
Guy of Gisborne.
Yeah, horrible man. Horrible man.
Well, yeah. He wasn't nice, was he? That Guy of Gisborne.
Real Guy of Gisborne. What a swine.
Beautifully
Swine
played.
of Gisborne, beautifully played. They're all beautifully played. I think that is the one thing that you can take from this, is that everybody's got a good grasp on who they are and what they're doing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes. I would say that Michael Praed as Robin, just
Kevin Keegan,
far too pretty.
Well, it's the.
And I don't know where he got.
Thing,
I don't know where he got that eyeliner and eyeshadow from in Sherwood Forest.
A few old berries.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a good actor, and you know, he became incredibly popular and became a star of Dynasty, didn't he? And that's why he left the show, I believe. And so they had to sort of concoct a reason for Jason Connery taking over, which I'm not sure what that reason was. Interesting that the show apparently, you know, challenged Doctor Who, and then they regenerated their main character, sort of. Is he? I don't know. Is Jason Connery meant to be a different Robin? Or,
it says
or
here
what?
on the wiki here that he plays Robert of Huntingdon.
Oh, right. So he is a different.
Who is just Robin Hood? Yeah, but with a different name. Yeah, interesting. Robert of Hunt doesn't quite have the same appeal as Robin of Locksley.
No, that was very affecting, that first bit showing him as a young boy and you know, his father being horribly killed by, you know, being festooned with crossbow bolts.
Oh God, yeah, that was really
horrible. That's the interesting thing about this. This went out at tea time, didn't it? And there's one bloody and one bastard in it.
Bloody bastard!
But since they only appear in this introduction, you're well past them now. But that's a little Monty Python joke for anyone who gets. So it's interesting the level. There's a lot of swords being struck down to the camera, and you don't see the killing, and then you see someone getting loads of crossbow bolts in them. There doesn't seem to be any consistent policy about the level of violence portrayed, which is an interesting choice. I thought people weren't so careful about those things, so paranoid about those things.
I think as well, when it's history, sometimes you can push the boat a little bit more with history than you can with, say, like a gritty crime drama. You know, if somebody was stabbed on a crime drama, I think you think, oh, blimey. Whereas if it's history, there's always that, well, it's history, it's educating people of how, you know, the real, and it's like, well, you know, it's an interesting.
Really? I
think you can.
If someone stabs someone in the Middle Ages, it's fine, but if they stab them today, it's awful. Blood's blood and death is death, isn't it?
But it's like they show history programs any time of the day, and like some of those World War II things, you see shocking footage of, like, you know, I'm still to this day kind of haunted by I remember them showing shots of the Eastern Front of these dead frozen soldiers, who you know, German soldiers who died on the Eastern Front because they were just too cold. And you know, that was broadcast. I remember that from being a kid. That was broadcast, and that's just education, so it's fine. So it's, I don't know, history, innit?
Yeah, but also this is fantasy. This, you know, it has a historical setting. It's interesting that I would say that Robin Hood is the quintessential English folklore story, and yet they've decided to give it a Celtic twist.
Yes, I thought that.
So that's an odd choice, really. But tell us about Clannad and the music.
Yeah, well, Clannad's a Celtic group, I suppose. That's that sort of modern Celtic twist, and it's a mixture of sort of synthesizers, which obviously at the time incredibly modern and fab and cool, and traditional Celtic, I suppose, traditional instruments. There is some fantastic stuff. I mean, I love the soundtrack, and I know the soundtrack better than this series. I've heard the soundtrack before even watching Robin of Sherwood. I remember it well, but I assume Clannad are still going.
Have a look. See if they're performing in a pub near you. I mean, I would say controversially, there are moments in sort of popular music history where a new sound, or a sound that had been previously less well known, suddenly comes to the fore. And especially in those days when there wasn't the diversification of media, where, you know, one thing could be expressed on a major TV channel and then everyone would know about it, water cooler discussions, as it were. And the whole Clannad thing, really, that was a huge part of the success of Robin of Sherwood, as I remember it. And you heard Clannad all the time, and lots of people started impersonating that.
So Harry's style. Game, innit? That's the other one that they did.
What you mean? What's Harry?
Harry's Game, theme from Harry's Game is
Howie's Game.
No, Harry's Game. You know, they did the theme from Harry's Game.
What's Harry's Game?
I think it's a TV series. I've never seen it, but I know that the song is just called "Theme from Harry's Game." But I remember that's the one I know them best of all for doing.
And could you look up Harry's Game? Find out what that is. Yeah. It vaguely rings a bell, but it's a bit.
Yorkshire Television Harry's Game, 82. Yorkshire dramas noted. British government cabinet minister Henry Danby is murdered by an IRA gunman, Billy Downs, in front of his wife and children as he leaves for work.
Who stars in it?
In this one, it is Ray Lonnan and Derek Thompson.
Oh, Ray Lonnan is a fantastic actor. Sadly, no longer with us. I really wish I'd got to work with him. Brilliant actor. Fantastic. He was in Doctor Who, funnily enough. He was in Frontier in Space, just playing a security guard captain. Had a few lines, you know.
Is in the one that you mentioned to me as well, The Sandbaggers.
Oh, yes, I know. He's one of the agents in that. He's amazing in it. He had this just very down-to-earth sort of style. I was really considering getting into work for Big Finish, and then sadly I received the news he died. Yeah, brilliant. Oh, so that's Harry's Game, is it? Okay.
Yeah, you'll know it. If you heard it, you'd know it. I know you would.
Well, let me say, and about to be, you know, it's one of the other things like this that happened was Kate Bush, when she came along and had a way of singing. I'm about to have loads of things thrown at me now. I don't get the Kate Bush thing.
I'm not a Kate Bush fan myself. Don't worry.
I don't like the noise. I don't doubt that she's a creative genius. Just not for me. And likewise, I am done with Clannad. I am done with that faux Celtic sound and the you know, it just really irritates me. And also the and every time there's a fight, the music goes you know, it's that same sort of funny noise. It's just it irritates me.
I go for the Celtic thing. So like in November, I'm flying over to Munich to go and see a Celtic band, Fauen, over there. It's actually, to be fair, Fauen are a bit more like a happy tavern music. So the that, yeah, it's more happy, but Clannad's a bit more like mystical.
Yeah,
but I like it. You know, I get what they're doing with the vibe.
Yeah, it seems to fit,
and actually. It fits. I mean, and what you get is it you know, it gives Robin of Sherwood a real identity. I think
it does, and that's what it did. People really bought into it, and I think they became massively popular and successful, which is brilliant for them. Yeah, not my kind of thing, that music, but it does work in the drama.
Definitely works, yeah.
Yeah. What about Herne the Hunter?
Herne the Hunter.
You know what he was? You know what Doctor Who story he was in, don't you?
I've got the Wikipedia up here. Let's have a look. I can't remember. Oh, it's John Abernethy. That's Toby Haydock's absolute top guy, isn't it? He loves John Abernethy.
Wait a minute! Wait, you can't. Total extermination!
Fire! 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 Yeah, of course it was. I didn't even think about it.
He's
actually,
a gift to the Daleks, folks. That's what we're saying.
The king, yeah, absolutely.
wearing a very unconvincing wig. In this, he wears a very unconvincing dead deer on his head. He's sort of just randomly standing on a hill with a completely different lighting state to everyone else, and it's sort of like, and Robin only sees him in his mind or something, because no one else says, "Here, what's that bloke doing up there with antlers on his head?"
To be fair, I zoned out a lot for those bits actually with the bloke, when he was wearing all the silly stuff. I was answering emails whilst watching it.
So you say you love it, and then in the key moments. But I'm with you, because I just found them profoundly irritating, and the way they try and make it normal. There was one point he said, "Are you a god?" or something. He says, "Everyone can be a god." I thought, well, that's not true, is it?
But they can't.
Dispensing really faulty wisdom from a cave. And that's really weird, because he sees him and then suddenly they're in a cave, and I don't know whether he's meant to have been transported onto an astral plane or something, or whether they just decided to cut out the journey to the cave. I did feel that there were a few moments in this episode where there was some very odd editing, where I suddenly didn't really know where I was.
Yeah, no, I get that. I totally get that.
Did they run out of time to shoot a connecting scene, or I don't know, it was some quite odd choices there. But generally, I liked the dialogue. I mean, Richard Carpenter, who created this, who was also did Catweasel, didn't he?
Of course he did. He did Catweasel. He did loads of other things, didn't he? Didn't he do The Ghosts of Motley Hall, I think it was?
Yes, I think so. And, Patrick Dromgoole, HTV, blah, 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 brilliant. His name on these things assures a high level of quality. And I think this is rightly very fondly remembered by people and loved. And I think that even though I've said a few rotten things about it, including Michael Praed being far too attractive.
Kevin Keegan.
Yeah. Well, who's the other actor who's in it, who we've worked with at Big Finish, apart from Nicholas Grace? Nico, who's lovely, and must work with him again.
Can you remember who he played?
He plays Little John.
Clive Mantle.
Clive Mantle. I was just looking at the Big Finish story he did for me, Destroy the Infinite. Lovely man. He had great popularity in Casualty for years, I think. Clive Mantle did. A big UK soap opera. Yeah. Beautifully written, pretty nicely directed when they had the time, and a very slick production.
Slick, I think slick's the word I would use, and I think it deserves a mention. I'd recommend it to people if they if they like that sort of thing. If they, as I said to Nick, I'll go for any old mystical claptrap is my thing. So if you like sort of mystical things, a bit of history. And
I'm interested to watch more with Anthony Valentine's character. Seems very interesting, playing that
I'm definitely going to watch more. I'm 100% going to watch more of it, because it certainly it's dragged me in now. I'm involved.
Well, there we are. A thoroughly resounding recommendation. I would just say also I worked with Michael Praed, directed him in Curse of the Daleks.
Did you?
The interesting thing about him was he was a brilliant actor. That I met two different Michael Praeds. There may be two of him, I don't know. On the first day, he was extremely quiet, and when you gave him a bit of direction, he just went, yep, okay, yep, just, not unpleasant or anything, but just very. And when people talked to him in the green room, there was one person who he'd met and worked with before who went up to him, and he sort of only seemed to vaguely recognise them, and he's very much sat on his own and he wasn't unpleasant, he did interviews and things, everything was fine. But then he came in on the second day, and he was, hi everyone, hi, yeah, wanted to go down the pub afterwards.
Strange.
And it was just like two completely different people. It was weird. I just thought, maybe you've got a twin brother. And after the first day he said, look, I don't like it, can you go in and be nice tomorrow?
I'm tired today. I like the way though on his website, his photo is him with the eyeliner on his official website, like looking really dapper and cool.
Yes, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, his USP is that he is a beautiful man. So he was not particularly happy about having his photograph taken just ad hoc in the studio. and he I pointed the camera at him, and he went, "What are you doing?" It was very
What
much
are you
it.
doing?
So the photograph, we had to use his standard publicity photograph, but he agreed to appear in a photograph with the cast on the basis that his face would be quite small in that. But that's people just being very careful about their image. I mean, he is a beautiful man and still is very, ruggedly handsome, and I'm just massively jealous.
You fool, you bitter old fool.
Still got a full head of hair, swine. Anyway, listen, here's a reminder of our competition. Coit Media Limited, coitmedia.co.uk, are publishing the brand new autobiography of Annette Andre, who played Jeannie in the series Randall and Hopkirk. And we have a signed copy of the book, which will be published in September, to give away. The book is called Where Have I Been All My Life, and covers her time on Randall and Hopkirk, as well as other series such as The Saint, The Prisoner, and The Avengers, and includes a foreword by Sir Roger Moore.
Yes.
And let's go on.
Yes, well, I just wanted to talk like this. It doesn't sound very... I have to get in the mood, you see, because he talks like that, sort of way.
And an afterword by Marty Hopkirk himself. Jeff! Kenneth Cope. Question. In the series, in which European resort could you have seen Jeff, Marty and Jeannie appearing alongside the Master, the Brigadier and Yakanos from Doctor Who? Yes, I think that's it, isn't it? Yes, so do send it to a podcast at nicholasbriggs.com. And the closing date is Friday, the 24th of August.
God, there we go. What an opportunity there.
Yeah.
Although
Benji.
I'm slightly concerned about the Benji and Nick deceased show.
Yeah. What on earth? Listen, I can't remember what the subject line was for the hold on, let me just look it up, because a few people have, I think, entered already. Yes, the subject line for that competition is "Only You." Riffing on the title sequence bit that now no longer exists, when Marty says, "Only you, Jeff, only you." I've got an idea in my brain for what we can look at next time, which I think you will love.
Okay.
The Stone Tape by Nigel Neal.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
Mentioned in this.
Yeah.
Got some really interesting sound effects in it. Just the opening of it.
It's absolutely brilliant production, that one. Yeah, absolutely. We'll go for the Stone Tape.
Anything
straight
by
away.
Nigel Neal. Frankly, genius.
Yeah, absolute cracker of a choice, Nick. I'm completely with you there.
Okay, Benji. Well, this is the time when you have to depart, because you're off.
I've got to go. Yeah, in half an hour's time, I'm off to Brighton for the day. It's my sister's birthday celebrationary thing.
Very nice.
So that'll be nice. Yeah, it should be good fun. Although it's not particularly very nice outside, but never mind.
Well, I'm going to spend the rest of the day editing podcasts. The big Finnish one and this one.
Well, you're in good company, because for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be in heavy editing mode. So that'll be me. So today's my last hurrah. So without further ado, I'm now cushioned up against this microphone. My glasses are steaming up ever so slightly. So from me here at Benji and Nick HQ, it is goodbye.
I don't know, that just made me laugh. Oh yes, goodbye. Pressing stop now. Ka-chunk. Ka-chunk. Fa-da-da-da, flippity-bum.